Along the lines of upgrading and improvements, Sam Monson, Brad Spielberger, who's been on our show a few times, Pro Football NFL show, talking about upgrading that defensive line and what they see.
Generally, they've added a lot of talent. They've added talent at the right areas. That defensive line was a mess last season. We talked about Za'Darius Smith, Okoronkwo as well, Dalvin Tomlinson. In the draft, they hit it as well. That defensive line should be dramatically better than it was last year. And, there's not a whole lot of targeting the secondary, but you look at the secondary last year, and on paper, it should have been really good. It just wasn't, in part because the defensive line was getting gashed and they weren't able to make plays to help the secondary. So I think they're kind of banking on the idea that if all these defensive line additions, the front seven guys, work out, then the guys we have on the back end should play much better than they did a year ago.
I think it's a huge piece of it. And a very underrated small move they made was bringing in Rodney McLeod, who was with Indianapolis last year, was obviously with Philly for, 6-7 years. I think all of those with Jim Schwartz. So not only the defensive line, which is a huge, huge part of it, but I also think the talent is obvious in this back seven in the secondary, but every guy was like 25 years old or younger. And now I think you have, kind of that cagey veteran to help, a Greg Newsome, help a Denzel Ward, help a Grant Delpit. Yeah, like I said, on paper, I'm in love with this team. They just got to show up and actually do it.
And I agree with that 100%. The veterans that they brought in, the McLeods, the Tomlinsons, that should help the young core.
Oh, listen, this is why it's a very inflammatory comment by Will, because if you detach yourself from everything that's happening, detach yourself from the situation, and you just simply look at what they have on paper, look at the McLeod move, you look at what even when you rank or rate the secondary, take a look. And just look at their grades and coverage. Look at the coverage grades in the slot from Newsome. I know he didn't have any interceptions, but he was rated one of the better slot corners in the league in terms of that. They've added more guys. They've added, I like Mitchell out of Northwestern. I love what they did and drafted him. Tyvis Powell's broken down some of the stuff on Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and this guy can run. This guy can come up and run support. This guy is a guy that's going to be able to help you. Emerson was a rookie last year. What if he improves and getting better? And I thought he played extremely well in the secondary. So when you look at the secondary in general and the upgrades from the pass rush, not to mention Schwartz, this is a team who, on paper, is one of the most talented teams in the AFC. And that's saying a lot, given the fact that these teams in the AFC is going to be murderer's row in order to get into the playoffs because everybody is so good. And I've even asked Mary Kay Cabot on the barbershop. I had her on last week, and she says, I asked her point blank, I said, is this the best, the most talented roster that the Browns have ever had on paper since '99? And she said, yeah. And I agree with her in that retrospect. So for me, they definitely got to go out and do it. But, for as far as talent, as far as the guys on the team, on the field, on paper, the Browns are as talented as anybody in the league.